Chapter 1 Free Country Hotel. Chin quietly knelt and sat on the carpet, the chest strap in his hand wrapped around him in circles. A pair of wet eyes, with a sad color, looked at the deep man sleeping on the bed. Zhanqing, the most powerful man in his Y city, known as Zhu, just slept with her. Qin Qi, originally handsome short haircut, was in a mess at this time. She was annoyed and frustrated, and she was always cold and reluctant, and she was a shudder in her words. How many women want to sleep in a man, let her pick up the bargain. But this kind of cheapness, she never picks it up again. Qin was angry and annoyed, and his wet eyes were full of anger. Junsu's handsome face is red. However, she couldn't do anything to Zhanqing. Because before she got what she wanted, Zhanqing couldn't let Zhanqing find her disguised as a man. Otherwise, how could she be worthy of her weak pretense in the Zhan family for the past few years? Looking at the man on the bed with those wet eyes, Qin really wanted to kick him a few times. But I have to admit that even if Zhanqing is drunk, she is not his opponent, she can't beat it completely. When Qin quietly picked up his compassionate shirt, he entrained Zhanqing's shirt. Annoyed, he threw the shirt on the ground and stomped on both feet. She wants to leave quickly before Zhanqing wakes up. Never let him know that the person he slept with was her Qin Wei. When Zhanqing woke up, his brain was full of pain. A few teammates had a party last night. He drank a few more glasses and was not lightly drunk. However, he still knew that he slept with a woman. Looking at the mess on the bed, Zhanqing's obsidian eyes narrowed. Interesting woman, he dared to run when he slept, she didn't know whether to live or die. War Mansion. Zhanqing asked with a pair of sharp eyes with gloomy anger as he walked, "Where is Qin Qi?" Uncle Tong behind him respectfully said, "Shao Qin is in the room." Zhanqing's slender legs went upstairs in a few steps, walked to Qin Qi's door, pushed the door and didn't open it. Uncle Tong immediately took out the key to open the door, and then retreated to the side. "The school said he didn't go to class for 3 days, why didn't he tell me?" Zhanqing's voice was very cold, and he could hear that he was controlling his anger. Uncle Tong glanced at Zhanqing's face and knew that Master Zhu was angry. Uncle Tong likes Qin Wei very much because the house is too deserted. Since Qin quietly moved in, it has been a lot of lively. Qin Shao said he was unwell and didn't want to go to school. He is already 20, not 8 years old, so he won't go if he doesn't feel well. Next time there will be such a thing, even bring Uncle Tong with you to punish him. He opened the door neither lightly nor severely. Zhanqing's tone was aggressive, and a wicked, handsome face revealed a wild and wolf-like aura. "Yes, Zhu." Uncle Tong lowered his head in fear, and said in fear. In the bathroom, Qin quietly stretched out his hand and wiped it on the mirror, a faint red glow on his handsome face. Reached out and touched his neck, the fake Adam's apple just pasted, frowned slightly. Pulled the chest the shelf and wrapped it skillfully. The mark has faded, but it is still reminding her scenes that happened in the hotel a few days ago. Hearing the sound of opening the door, Qin quietly stopped the entanglement of her hand. She remembered that she had clearly locked the bedroom door. A woman pretending to be a man and living carefully makes Qin's ears different from ordinary people's sharpness. Since living here, she has been very careful for fear of being discovered. The action of winding the chest strap is a bit messy, the more anxious, the worse it will be. Because I just took a shower, I have short flax hair with dripping water at the ends. Chapter 2. Hearing the sound of footsteps getting closer and closer to the bathroom, Qin quiet didn't care that the chest strap hadn't been wrapped up, so he tucked it directly, and reached out to put his black t-shirt on. Through the glass on the bathroom door, I saw the upright figure of the man, followed by the sound of the door handle being turned. This figure is Jushu, Zhanqing. After that day, I never saw Jushu at home again. The moment the door opened, the thin Qin quietly bit his head and looked at Zhanqing. "9, Uncle 9. Qin Qi's voice was full of panic. Where was the same Qin Qi with cold eyes just now? Zhang Qing's eyes were cold and impatient, and he couldn't help narrowing his eyes as he looked at the small waist that Qin quietly showed. Qin quietly looked down Zhang Qing's eyes and found that one side of his compassion had not fallen. Showing a small side waist, he immediately pulled his shirt in a panic. Then stood there at a loss, like a kid who had done something wrong. Dry your hair and get out. Zhang Qing couldn't see Qin Qi's cowardly temper, seeing him was like a mouse and a cat. He was obviously afraid of him, but he kept getting in trouble and annoying him. For Qin Qi, Zhang Qing really didn't have much patience. If it were not for the entrustment of the president 5 years ago, he would not take him in. Qin Qiao is useless except for being handsome and cute. Qin quietly looked at Zhang Qing's back and exhaled heavily, leaning against the edge of the sink, his body almost limp. Fortunately, it just showed a small waist. If you see the chest strap, you will be found. Qin Qiao dared to dry her hair before going out, drew a towel, wiped it twice indiscriminately, and ran out. She was still in the orphanage 5 years ago, and the president sent someone to find her. Saying that she arranged for someone to take care of her, Qin Qi didn't know at all, and she didn't know the president, why would she help her? However, when she knew it was to arrange her to the Zhan family, she immediately agreed. Because she wants to get something from the Zhan family, something very important to her. From the day she moved into the Zhan mansion, she called Zhan Qing Jushu, which was more than 5 years. Zhan Qing sat beside the bed, dressed in black, and Qin Qi white sheets formed a sharp contrast. However, Qin Qi could only feel the invisible oppression and powerful aura. Every time she faced Zhan Qing alone, she felt as if she had lost her half-life. Qin quietly lowered his head, holding the edge of the bottom corner of his shirt with both hands, like a child who had done something wrong and was waiting to be trained. Even with the chest strap, Qin Qi was afraid of being seen by others, so her clothes were all loose and fat. They are long and thin. Wearing such clothes and lowering their heads will make people feel protective. However, Zhan Qing obviously wouldn't. He was most uncomfortable with Qin Qi's cowardly temperament, and he didn't have the blood and energy that a boy should have. Twitching like a girl. Where does it hurt? Zhan Qing is cold-tempered, short-tempered, and cherishes words like gold. It was really not easy for him to speak to Qin quietly. Qin quietly lowered his head when he heard Zhan Qing's question. I'm asking if you are uncomfortable? Dumb. Qin quietly closed his eyes and didn't let himself think about the scenes that night. I'm asking you something, look up. I don't know when, Zhan Qing actually walked in front of her, pinched her chin, and commanded coldly. Qin quiet opened his eyes with trembling eyelashes. What caught Zhan Qing's eyes were those cold eyes that made people feel more oppressive. Offeedapik Xiao Miaok Sinput, welcome babies to jump in, collect it. The domineering and affectionate hero, the black-bellied courageous little heroine, is absolutely different. Chapter 4 Zhan Min, who was grinding his nails, smiled sarcastically at the corner of his mouth. Grandma, what do you mean by marrying? It's obviously that he got married. As far as his foolish and idiot mind is concerned, you have to explain to him that it was him who entered the family home and came to the door. Son-in-law. Zhan Min is Zhan Qing's niece. Da Qin is 2 years old, an arrogant eldest lady. Although Qin Qi was called Zhan Qing Jushu, that was the name among men. However, due to politeness, I still have to call Zhan Min to my sister. That's how it was called anyway, and no one likes her in this warrior. In Zhan Min's eyes, Qin Qi was a cowardly coward, so he never gave her a good face, and he bullied her the most on weekdays. Do you understand what Min'er said? The old lady Zhan didn't even glance at Qin Qi, and didn't call her name. After all, the president has entrusted him to take care of it. Even if he doesn't like it, he will be almost able to live by it. Grandma, I understand, listening to Grandma's arrangement is. Qin Quiet's voice was as small as a mosquito, with a vibrato. Qin followed Zhan Min as Grandma Zhan. Fool! Jean Min shook her head with a sneer. She didn't understand how there could be such a stupid person in the world. In the face of Jean Min's insults, Qin Quiet did not speak, still lowered his head, pushing the glasses on the bridge of his nose from time to time. Your temper is too weak, and your body is weak. If you get married because of your weak health, Chi Mai Wei will not be able to get pregnant. In the end, people said that you can't do that as a man, and it is our warrior who is ashamed. So, after your school is off, you go to War Soul to exercise. The old lady Jean glanced at it disgustingly. Qin quietly said in a weak voice. Want her to fight the soul? Doesn't she go there just waiting to be discovered? Is she a woman disguised as a man? Besides, it's the territory of Uncle Ju. Grandma, you might as well just say that when he can't do that, Chi Mai Wei will cuckold him and lose the face of our war family. If you know that Chi Mai Wei is a famous and unrestrained woman, how can he satisfy her big appetite? When Jean Min got up and passed Qin Qi's side, he deliberately stepped on her foot. But Qin Qiao stood up suddenly in pain, and the teacup in his hand fell out of an instability. A cup of drunk tea was poured directly on Jean Min's skirt. Sister, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I will wipe it for you. Qin quietly lowered his head and hurriedly used his sleeves to wipe Jean Min's skirt. A wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Handsome and evil. Go away, who wants you to wipe it? Don't touch me, I'm so angry. Jean Min was annoyed and pushed Qin quietly to the sofa. Qin Qi was panicked and scared, not knowing what to do to shrink there. Grandma, hurry up and get rid of this rubbish, it will be annoying to see him. Jean Min looked at his skirt, annoyed. Qin Qiao didn't bother to talk to Jean Min, she was thinking how to get out. The battle spirit of Zhanqing is an industry under Zhan's, and it is one of the world's top security companies. The personal bodyguards of most of the richest people in the world come from the souls of war. War Soul will also participate in international rescue and escort, and cooperate in many ways. It can be said that the soul of war is an existence that no one knows and no one knows. Battle Soul is not a place that ordinary people can stay, she will have to be tortured to death there. Being tortured is tolerable, mainly because Zhanqing discovered that she was disguised as a man and would die miserably. Not awake bar when Qin came quietly, the sugar cube had arrived and waved at her. Audiobook. It is said that this article is so sweet and so cool, you still don't collect it. Chapter 5. When she sat down, she deliberately pulled on the shoulder strap of the sugar cube. Don't wear so little next time, it's not safe. Sugar cube. A red deep V suspender skirt, full of hooks. Every gesture is full of ecstasy. It's safe to dress like you? You haven't been put to sleep by your Jew uncle. Fang Tang teased deliberately. Shut up, don't mention him. Qin quietly wore white half-sleeved, black slim-fitting jeans with holes in the knees and white sneakers, simple but trendy. Only in front of sugar cubes can Qin Qi be the truest self, without having to pretend to be weak and stupid, but can't wear women's clothing. In fact, Qin has been accustomed to wearing men's clothing since she was a child, and sometimes she always thinks in a daze that she is a male gender. In the past 2 days, she forced herself not to think about Zhanqing or what happened in the hotel that day. Well, I wanted to hear some details. You live together. If he finds out, what about you, the woman that night? It's too dangerous. Zhanqing has a cold temper and an ascetic look on his face, making it very difficult to get along with. Qin is a woman disguised as a man again. This is simply living in a minefield all the time, not to mention that they have had a relationship again. What's more dangerous is that I'm going to be sent to his battle spirit, I'm going to get back with a tendon and marry Chi Mai Wei. Qin quietly took a sip of wine and smiled with a slight squint. Chi Mai Wei? The eldest lady of the Qi family. Fang Tang asked word by word, looking surprised. Qin quietly nodded and shook the wine glass in his hand, not caring about his handsome face. She hadn't seen him since Zhanqing left that day. Zhanqing doesn't live at home often, which is what Qin Quiet would like to see. The Zhan family is so kind to you, it's unpredictable to marry you such a guy as a wife. What kind of shame Chi My Wei is, no one in the upper circle of Y City knows. Not to marry, but to join the family. As soon as Qin whispered, Sugar Cube became angry and stood up quickly. They are too bullying. Why are you entrusted by the president? What are you angry about? This kind of thing won't happen. How can I let them know? Besides, I'm a woman. When Qin quietly talked about women, he blinked at the Sugar Cube deliberately, very playful. That's Chi My Wei. Fang Tang pointed to a woman in a cool dress not far away and said. Qin also looked over, and it turned out to be Miss Qi. She was really cool in her clothes. Qin narrowed his eyes slightly and shook the remaining wine in the glass. Then he leaned back, and his clear eyes gradually became wicked. Aren't you planning to take her down tonight? Fang Tang watched Qin quietly light a cigarette, walked towards Chi My Wei full of scorn, and asked with a smile. It's enough to take her for 3 minutes. Qin smiled evilly at the Sugar Cube. The enchanting yuppie state is simply a wicked evildoer. Fang Tang knows Qin Qi's strength too well, and maybe he will take Chi My Wei in a minute. After all, being handsome is Qin Qi's housekeeping skill. Qin quietly smoked a cigarette and walked towards Chi My Wei lazily. Seeing the evil and handsome Chi My Wei immediately lit up. Beauty, I played truth or dare with my friends, and I lost, and I need to ask the most beautiful beauty present, can you help me? Qin quietly approached Chi My Wei, pressed close to her ear, and asked in a dumb voice. Chapter 6. Of course, you can ask. Called the most beautiful beauty by such a handsome man, Chi My Wei was so energetic that she was about to stick to Qin Qi's body. Qin quietly touched her earrings, and instantly a drop of red blood appeared on her index finger. What is the color of your little inner? Qin quietly grasped without a trace Chi My Wei's hand, squinting half as if drunk, asked. No one knows that Qin Qi has a skill that no one else knows, that is the skill that comes with her mother's womb. Just by pressing her index finger blood on the palm of the opponent's hand, she can see the unknown and the unpredictable future. When he held Chi My Wei's palm, the scene she saw made her squint suddenly. Chi My Wei drove into Zhan Min. You, want to know, find a place where no one is, and show it to you. Qin Quiet's sultry manner made Chi My Wei directly send out the invitation. Okay. Withdrawing his thoughts, said evilly. Fang Tang looked at Chi My Wei almost entirely, hanging on Qin Qi's body, and walked out of the bar with her. I looked at the watch on my wrist again, 1 minute and 32 seconds, where did it take 3 minutes? Sugar Cube immediately dialed out a number. Tail, your boss Qin was taken away by a woman like a wolf like a tiger, you should answer, don't let her be thrown down, take advantage of it. Fang Tang knew that Qin quietly hooked up Chi My Wei, and she must have her intentions. War Mansion. As soon as Qin Quiet sat on the sofa holding a few books, he saw Zhan Qing walk in with a stern face. Behind him was his little assistant of the spirit of war, Qi Shui, with a trembling expression on his face. Zhan Qing directly sat on the sofa, rubbing his temples, and Qi Shui quickly poured him a cup of tea. Qin quietly sat beside him, could smell the wine, shrank back, leaned to the side, and yelled timidly, Uncle Nine. The reason Zhan Qing was called Juye was because the old lady of the Zhan family was giving birth to him. Already 45 years old, after giving birth to Zhan Qing, he named Xiaoju, hoping that he would live a long time. When Zhan Qing was a little older, he was called Ju Shao, and now he is revered as Ju Ye. Even if the two were separated by one person's distance, Qin Qi could still feel the powerful aura of Zhan Qing. So that she did not dare to breathe, the picture of being imprisoned by this man still appeared in her mind. Zhan Qing opened his eyes slowly, and his deep and cold eyes were filled with drunkenness. It seemed that at this time, I noticed that there was still a person sitting beside him. The slender fingers lightly tapped on the temples, and the lazy movements carried a strong sense of oppression. There is a dinner in the Xiao family, you should also meet the world, and come with me tonight. When Qin Quiet heard the Xiao family, his heart sighed. Fang Tang said, Xiao Yuhan is back, and the Xiao family is definitely going to catch him. The Xiao family that Uncle Ju said should be Xiao Yuhan's family. After all, Y City can invite him, and there is no second Xiao family. Xiao Yuhan, who has the most cleanliness, is back, but she is not clean anymore. Afraid of life, Jushu. Qin quietly lowered his head and said weakly. Zhanqing was about to give Qin Qiao a kick when he got up, but found that his trouser leg was bitten by something. Looking down, it turned out to be a puppy, glaring at him fiercely, biting his trouser leg. Who allowed you to raise a dog at home? Zhanqing's angry voice immediately shocked Qin Qi's whole body. Chapter 7 Uncle 9, Candies don't bite people, Qin Qi was raised secretly. Uncle Tong didn't know, the candy was usually hidden under the bed and didn't bark. There was no one in the living room, so she brought it out, and she couldn't always keep it in the room for fear of suffocating it. Who knew Jushu would come back suddenly? As soon as Qin Qiao finished talking about candy and not biting people, the little candy yelled twice at Zhanqing, which was quite fierce. Qin quietly thought, my little ancestor, are you all right? I usually use a ham sausage to train you, and you don't scream twice. This will make you scream. Isn't it a tacit understanding? Who knew candy was fierce, biting Zhanqing's trouser leg. As soon as Zhanqing lifted his leg, he was about to throw the candy out, but Qin quietly hugged his leg. Qin Qi made this movement very fast, and directly knelt down to Zhanqing. Uncle 9, I'll come. Qin quietly grabbed the candy by the ears and rescued it from Zhanqing's trouser legs. Throw it out, no furry items are allowed at home. Zhanqing hates these cats and dogs the most, not to mention shed hair and cling to people. Of course, he doesn't like these small cats and dogs, but his large dogs do. Zhanqing did not expect that one day, Qin Qi, this old little woman, will give their son a nickname also called Candy. Uncle Ju, I just keep it in my room, and I will never let it go out. I don't eat much food, and I will eat the rest, absolutely not wasting food at home. Qin just knelt there, holding Zhanqing's big legs, and said pitifully. His eyes really looked like a pitiful puppy. Please, Jushu, candies are just like me, they are all children that no one wants. Qin quietly sniffed, seeing that he was about to cry again. Nonsense, why don't you ask for it, don't cry. Zhanqing didn't know what was wrong with him. Seeing Qin quiet about to cry, he felt soft-hearted. Zhanqing didn't kick the candy away, but kicked Qin Qi away who was holding his leg. When he retracted his leg, Zhanqing felt that there was something wrong with his leg. Standing up irritably, Zhanqing returned to the room. Qin quietly exhaled. Little ancestor, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? You bite the living Hades. Do you want to be stewed? Qin quietly grabbed the two front paws of the candy, let it stand, and said in annoyance. Candy's bright eyes turned around, as if to say. I'm protecting you, you still yelled at me, little conscience. Xiajia as Qin quiet thought, what Zhanqing brought her was indeed Xiao Yuhan's dinner. Qin quiet thought about many scenes of her meeting with Xiao Yuhan, but he hadn't thought about it only under such circumstances. There is another beautiful girl beside him, holding his arm. Zhanqing is here, coming to Grandpa, who is this child? He is really handsome. Xiao Ding, the old man of the Xiao family, said kindly to Zhanqing, and then saw Qin Wei behind Zhanqing. Because Qin was so handsome, people couldn't help but look at them more. Zhanqing called out Grandpa enough to show his respect. Xiao Ding used to fight the world with Grandpa Zhanqing, and this year is more than 80. Zhanqing's grandfather has passed away for many years, and Xiao Ding's body is still tough. Children entrusted to take care of. Qin Qi, call someone. With a low voice from Zhang Qin had to walk out from behind him. Audiobook like the baby, remember to collect, leave a message, and recommend a ticket. Chapter 8 Qin Xiao is 1.67 meters tall. Among girls, she is considered tall. But beside Zhangqing at 1.86 meters, she appeared much shorter. Hello, Grandpa. Qin quietly pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said hello politely. She looks like a good student. Although her name is Jushu Zhangqing, she must be called Grandpa according to her seniority. Qin could feel Xiao Yuhan's eyes with a knife in front of her left. It was so cold, but it made her feel that her body had been burned out of several fire holes. It's been 2 years, so fast. The kid is handsome, do you have a girlfriend? Xiao Ding patted Qin Qi on the shoulder and smiled. It can be seen that Xiao Ding likes Qin Wei very much, and the children who are long and attractive will be treated by elders. No. No, Grandpa. Qin's shoulder shuddered when Xiao Ding patted him. Don't look at the old man in his 80s, his hand strength is not small, and Qin is trying to step back. However, Zhangqing grabbed her waist and prevented her from hiding. This child has a weak temperament and he is afraid of childbirth. Zhangqing frowned slightly. To Qin, a boy who was timid and cowardly, he felt a little angry. When Zhangqing said this, the corners of Xiao Yuhan's lips made a slight arc of sarcasm. It just so happened that Qin quietly saw this smile, and Qin quietly avoided it. Yuhan, say hello to your Ju uncle, and that, what is your name? Xiao Ding said, then who is the girl next to Xiao Yuhan? It's been a long time since Master Ju, this is me, fiancé Zhongli. As soon as Xiao Yuhan spoke, Qin closed his eyes slightly, this familiar voice. It's still so nice, as melodious as a violin. Those whispers in the ears came from this mouth, so sweet and idiotic. Fiancé. This woman is his fiancé, and Xiao Yuhan, who said that she would not marry, already has a fiancé. Hello, Julia. Zhongli greeted Zhangqing in an obedient way, with infinite shyness in those charming water eyes. Yet, Zhangqing just said something. It's not that he doesn't wait to see, but that he has always been like this. With this I don't know whether it was in response to Xiao Yuhan or to Zhongli. It is said that Qin and Yihan are about the same age, but according to this generation, Qin, you also have to call Yihan uncle. Xiao Ding came and patted Qin's shoulder again. This time, Zhangqing directly buckled Qin's waist, lest she retreat hopelessly and want to evade. However, when the palm of his hand touched Qin's waist, Zhangqing felt the chill from the palm of his hand. The uncle asked Qin quiet what to say. In the past, she would call him Han Han, and every time she got Xiao Yuhan's eyes rolled. Xiao Yuhan, dressed in a white suit, is full of noble air, handsome, but he does not look like a world of fireworks. He looked at Qin Wei coldly like that, this woman he loved so much that he went crazy. He waited for him to call uncle, and he wanted to see how she called. No one here knows that Qin Wei, this handsome boy, is a woman. No one knows, but he Xiao Yuhan knows. It was under this handsome face that Qin possessed such an iron and stone heart, which nearly drove him to death, without a trace of mercy. Qin quietly raised his eyes and saw that Xiao Yuhan's resentful eyes were extremely incompatible with his noble and elegant body. Chapter 10 Fortunately, when he came in, Qin quietly took a look, and there was no one in all the compartments. Seeing Xiao Yuhan locked the bathroom door, Qin quiet stood there so lazily. There was a mist in the slightly squinted eyes, which made people unable to see the emotions inside. Xiao Yuhan's steps towards her seemed calm, but his tight and handsome face still showed his anger at this time. Qin quietly watched Xiao Yuhan walk towards him step by step, and everything in the past was like a carousel movie, passing through his mind. Quietly, I'm back, aren't you afraid? When Xiao Yuhan walked in front of Qin, pinched her chin, and slowly said this sentence, Qin Quiet's body trembled. Not because of fear, but because of heart palpitations. She still had feelings for Xiao Yuhan, and this kind of knowledge made Qin Quiet scream bad. It turns out that time can indeed be forgotten because of missing. Once you meet and touch, all the emotions will flow out. Uncle Xiao, what are you talking about? Why should I be afraid of you? A cynical and lazy state appeared in Qin's eyes, with a clear and cool tone, with etherealness. Qin Quiet, shut up. When the two were together, Xiao Yuhan's heart seemed to be torn apart when Qin quietly called him Uncle Xiao. Xiao Yuhan's lower jaw was faintly floating, and his chest was also violently undulating. Qin quietly shut his mouth obediently, because he didn't know what to say. There was nothing to say between her and Xiao Yuhan. Xiao Yuhan looked at Qin Wei, and she always said things that made him unhappy. Qin quietly clenched his hand on his side, his teeth trembling as if they were frozen. Then there were the quivering eyelashes, the mist spread out, and the wet eyes. Xiao Yuhan leaned down and was going to kiss Qin Qi. For 2 years, he thought of this woman madly, but madly restrained from returning to China to arrest her. Why? Because he knows deeply that the tighter you hold Qin Qi, the farther she will run. Qin Quiet turned away, avoided Xiao Yuhan, and Xiao Yuhan kissed her on the cheek. Xiao Yuhan broke her face and lowered his head again. Qin quietly raised his leg and pressed his knee to his stomach. Forcing him to bend down, Qin raised his leg quickly and sternly. This was all taught by the tail. The seemingly weak Qin Qi, the talent in his bones, no one knows how big it is. Xiao Yuhan, we have already broken up. This is the first time the word breakup appears between the two. The belated breakup, but said it under such circumstances. It was me who said the beginning, and you are not qualified to say the end. Xiao Yuhan endured the pain, raised his head and shouted at Qin quietly. At this time, Qin Quiet heard Qi Shui's voice beside Zhanqing. Boss, Qin Xiao just entered the bathroom. Then there was the sound of the door of the bathroom being opened with a key from outside. Qin Qi, stay with me, otherwise I will tell you Jushu, you are dressed as a man. Xiao Yuhan endured the pain, neatly tidying up his suit, staring at Qin Xiao's flustered eyes and said. Qin's eyes did not change, and Xiao Yuhan's eyes were met. Then you try. Qin's voice was a little cold, and Xiao Yuhan's back was even cold when it was cold. She did not expect Xiao Yuhan to threaten him. When the door was opened, Zhanqing stood at the door with a sullen face. Get out. The tone is full of commands, with a faint anger. Chapter 11. Qin immediately ran out with a frightened look. When he walked to Zhanqing, he pushed his wide glasses and called Uncle Ju cowardly. Zhanqing glanced at Xiao Yuhan, which was very deep and heavy, and when he turned around, he pulled Qin Qi's collar and dragged him away. It's like carrying a chick, it doesn't take much effort. Just as Qin Quiet thought, Xiao Yuhan did not dare to say that she was a woman disguised as a man, because he could not bear Qin Quiet's hatred. Qin Quiet was thrown into the back seat of the car by Zhanqing. For Zhanqing, the paramount predator, Qin Quiet felt that she could stand up even if she sat in, it was too big. The 3 commonly used vehicles for the war engine are the Paramount Predator, George Patton, and the Keber Battle Shield. For Qin Quiet, these cars can only be viewed from a distance and can't really afford to play with them. However, for Zhanqing, he is a strong one, and only such a powerful and domineering car is worthy of him. When Zhanqing sat in, Qin quietly smelled the smell of wine. The alarm bell rang in my mind for an instant. That night, because Jushu drank too much, she forced her to sleep. His drink volume is really bad for home, isn't it dangerous for her to be in the same car? Besides, this banquet was just beginning, why did he leave? What's the matter with that Xiao Yuhan? He couldn't tell who Zhanqing was. Qin Qi and Xiao Yuhan knew each other. He glanced at the meeting place just now and found that Qin Qi was not eating any macarons there, and he didn't know what was wrong with him, and the conversation became absent-minded. And he also found that Xiao Yuhan had disappeared. When Qin Quiet heard Zhang Qing's words, he was analyzing what he meant. Did he find something? Xiao Yuhan used to chase Sugar Cube before. Oh, Sugar Cube is my good friend. Sugar Cube doesn't like him, so she said I was her boyfriend. Xiao Yuhan was more hostile to me. This was indeed the case at the time, but it was not Xiao Yuhan who was chasing Sugar Cube, but Sugar Cube liked Xiao Yuhan a bit. Zhang Qing looked at Qin Qin's eyes, and then realized that Qin Qin's glasses had only frames and no lenses. He stretched out his hand and pulled off Qin Qi's glasses. What he saw was a pair of scared black and white eyes. The eyes were extremely clear, as if they were carrying sweet spring water, so refreshing. Seeing the flattering face, the shrewd eyes, and the inexperienced look like Qin Jia really made Zhang Qing unable to look away. Qin quietly blinked an unconscious movement, his eyelashes trembling like a small brush. Gently brushing the tip of Zhang Qing's heart, it felt like being electrocuted. Qin Jiao's mind appeared, the scene that day made her almost suffocated. The feeling seems to be that if you can't get up at once, you will die. It's all nonsense to say that Zhang Qing has an ascetic face and doesn't understand style. Zhang Qing is a wolf who can kill people at any time. It was really fierce, and made people totally incapable of parrying. Uncle 9. Qin Qi's eyes gathered water mist, and he said whether he would cry or not. Looking at those wet eyes, Zhang Qing's eyes became darker. His eyes were a little confused, and he couldn't tell who was in front of him. The vigorous palm was clasped on Qin Qi's waist. Before she could even realize what was going on, Zhang Qing had already pulled it over. Because of the central control partition, Qi Shui who drove in front couldn't see what was going on behind him. Chapter 12 Uncle Ju, this is Qin Qi, you are drunk. Qin pushed Zhang Qing's chest with both hands, but that night she failed to push Zhang Qing away, and he fell asleep. Don't move. Zhang Qing squinted and looked at Qin Qi. He was indeed a little drunk, but after drinking 2 glasses of red wine, he couldn't distinguish between men and women. Looking at Qin Wei in front of him, he actually reminded him of that woman. Damn, he actually wanted to kiss Qin Wei just now. What is a boy who is so good looking and okay? Qin Wei, who took off his glasses, had an indescribable hook. Qin didn't dare to move, he didn't dare to move at all. What's the situation? Ju Shu drank too much. Qin quietly watched Zhang Qing leaning on the seat, closing his eyes. Qin quietly looked out of the car window. This was not the way back to the mansion. Qin didn't dare to move, his body was stiff, and he felt his legs numb after sitting for a while. She saw that Zhang Qing seemed to be asleep, and she wanted to take his hand away. But she didn't want to. As soon as she moved, Zhang Qing actually opened his eyes. With a little sleepy eyes, it was like a dark pool that could people in. Qin Qi's little white hand was still clasped in Zhang Qing's hand, doing the action to pull it apart. Uncle Ju, my legs are numb, Qin quietly said, really numb. Those wet eyes looked at Zhang Qing. Zhang Qing clasped Qin's side-waist hand, came to her leg, and pinched it fiercely. Annoyed Qin whispered, his legs were already numb, as if he was reacting to a knee jump. Mama Su seemed to have been electrocuted. Qin Qiao bent down instinctively, and hit Zhang Qing's chest with his head. When he raised his head in a panic, it was Zhang Qing's gloomy eyes that confronted him. Zhang Qing's eyes were drunk, and when his voice fell, he pinched Qin Quiet's leg again. Uncle 9, the pinch hurts. Qin Quiet was almost forced to cry as he could not stand such a severe pinch. Zhang Qing squeezed Qin Qi's chin and said angrily, you woman, how dare you run? When Qin Quiet heard Zhang Qing's words, did he know that it was her that night? Thinking about jumping and running, is there still a glimmer of hope for survival? But, look at Zhang Qing's drunken eyes, and what did he just say? You woman! Qin Xiaoxin took a gamble, and Ju Shu was probably drunk and confused. "Uncle Ju, what are you talking about? This is Qin Wei, are you drinking too much?" When Qin quietly spoke, he turned his hand back to pat the central control clapboard, very hard. "It's so noisy." Zhanqiang still began to faintly aches, being so irritable by Qin quiet. The car stopped suddenly. Qi Shui got out of the car, quickly opened the back door, and saw his boss holding Qin key. "Did my ninth uncle drink too much? He treats me like a woman." Looking at Qi Shui, Qin quiet blushed, crying anxiously. Now she didn't dare to see Zhanqing at all, just wanted to stay away from him quickly. "Get off!" Zhanqing yelled at Qin quietly in irritation. Qin Shi was shocked, but because of her leg numb, she couldn't move. Qi Shui naturally knew Qin Wei, this cowardly temper, quickly reached out and pulled her down. "Xiao Qin should sit in the front." "Good, good." Qin Shi nodded immediately, and immediately thought that Qi Shui was very handsome. Zhanqing looked at Qin Qi thinking head, and slowly closed his eyes. He really drank too much. When he saw Qin Qi, he was still thinking, why is this kid here? Chapter 13. When I got into the car, Qin Qi and Qi Shui only left the space in front of them, and they felt that the air was different and their breathing became smoother. After asking Qi Shui, Qin Qi knew that this was going to Battle Seoul, and Zhanqing was going to check it tonight. Qin quietly asked, "Then what do you take me to?" Qi Shui shrugged, probably the boss forgot to return to the battle spirit, so he still got in the car. "Our boss can do anything, as long as we can't drink enough, we can pour almost a glass." Qi Shui replied with a smile. In fact, there was a central control partition, which could not be heard by the war engine behind, but Qi Shui's voice was still very small. Qin Chu wanted to say or just leave him, she would go by herself. However, looking out the window of the car, she didn't know where it was. When she got off the car, didn't she wait to feed the wolf? When it came to the soul of war, Zhanqing, who had slept, was almost awake. The door opened, Zhanqing jumped out of the car, stretched his muscles and bones, and when he turned sideways, he saw Qin Qi with a pale face. "Why is he here?" This was obviously asking Qi Shui. "Boss, you drink, didn't you throw Qin Shao into the car?" Just as Qi Shui thought, the boss drank too much, so he grabbed Qin Shao into the car. Qin Qi looked timid, standing there, pushing his glasses nervously. Zhanqing frowned, turned, and walked towards the team. Qin Qi was here for the first time, the legendary Battle Soul Brigade. All men yearn for a place where they will be excited and mysterious. Seeing that his boss hadn't told him, Qi Shui arranged Qin quietly in Zhanqing's room. "This is the boss's room, Xiao Qin, I see you are bumped along the way, and you are tired, and sleep when you are sleepy. It is estimated that the boss will not come back to sleep tonight." Qi Shui whispered a few words to Qin and left. Qin quietly stood at the door. This was a simple one-bedroom apartment with a separate bathroom. The bed is quite big, it's Zhanqing's bed. Qin quiet thought of that night, shook his head and drove all those pictures out of his mind. Qin didn't feel hypocritical, and went into the bathroom to wash his face. When I was wiping my face, I was holding Zhanqing's towel, which was light grey. After rubbing his face indiscriminately, Qin quietly went to bed, and Zhanqing won't be back tonight anyway. The clean and plain sheets and quilts are full of domineering and reassuring. Qin Qi is a cat and is too lazy. The bumps along the way will make her bones loose. She likes to sleep on the bed, hug a pillow, and cover her quilt. The pillows and quilts had a faint freshness. It smelled after being exposed to the sun, just like the smell on Zhanqing's body. Thinking about Qin Qi and fell asleep. After 3 o'clock in the morning, Zhanqing returned to his room and saw a big bulging ball on the bed at a glance. No one dared to enter his room except for the usual cleaning. Zhanqing had simply forgotten that he had brought Qin Qi to Zanhun incidentally. Zhanqing walked to the side of the bed, pinched the corner of the thin quilt with 2 fingers, and lifted the quilt open. Then what I saw was Qin Wei, sleeping on his pillow, like a koala. The posture is a bit ugly, wearing t-shirt and shorts, like a child. The deep gaze downwards, those white little feet. Why is it said that it is a small foot? Because the feet are thin and tender, and girls' feet may not have the delicate beauty of these feet. Once Qin Shi fell asleep, it was a deep sleep, because she usually disguised herself as a man, and her nerves were in a tight state. Chapter 14. Only when the door is locked at night can she fall asleep peacefully and put down all precautions. Qin quietly slept in the middle of the bed, without any deviation. Although Zhanqing slept in the car for a while, after all, he was drunk and he was going to be sleepy. He lifted his foot and kicked it on Qin Qi's leg. This foot was not light, but Qin Qi only moved his leg, and then went to sleep. The posture of holding the pillow has not changed. Zhanqing knelt on the side of the bed with one leg and squeezed Qin Qi's face. She just shook her head. In fact, Qin Wei in his sleep thought it was Candy making trouble with her. It never occurred to him that he was in the hands of the Demon King at this time. Zhanqing knelt on the bed, hugged Qin together with a pillow, and placed them next to him. Then got out of the bed, walked in the direction of the bathroom, walked 2 steps and then folded back, pulled the quilt and threw it on Qin Qi's body. Entering the bathroom, Zhanqing put his hands on the edge of the sink, feeling a little irritable. Zhanqing simply took a shower, wiped his hair, walked back to the bedroom, and threw the towel on the table. He tore off the towel around his waist, went directly to the bed, and pulled the quilt over his body. Today, Zhanqing was really tired, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep despite the presence of another Qin Wei. Unlike Qin, Zhanqing always sleeps lightly, but this night, he sleeps extremely deep. It was so bright that he didn't even wake up. The noise in the team woke Qin quietly. Because she has the habit of sleeping late, Qin Qi irritably pulled her hair when she heard the annoying voice. But I felt cold on my body again, and hugged the pillow tighter. Stop the Candy! Qin quiet thought it was Candy that took her quilt away, and stretched out his hand to pull it. Tugging again, tugging again. Why is this quilt so hard? Qin Qi opened his eyes at this moment, but Zhanqing's angry eyes were what she faced. 9, Uncle 9. Qin Qi didn't react to her for a while. Why was Zhanqing in her bed? Dark eyes glanced at the furnishings of the room, only then realized that he was brought to the Battle Soul Brigade by Zhanqing last night. Zhanqing's eyes fell down and fell on Qin Quiet's hand holding his arm. Qin Quiet hurriedly retracted his hand. Uncle Ji, morning. Qin quietly wanted to cry without tears. Qin Qi, you can have a snack. Why dare you still sleep so deeply in Zhanqing's bed? Isn't this a sheep's mouth? Looking at Qin Qi's messy hair, Zhanqing would find him cute again. Reached out and pulled Qin Qi's head. Get up, wash, and run in the morning. With just 6 simple words, Qin quietly blinked and started running in the morning. Uncle Ju, I haven't eaten yet. Shouldn't you get up, wash, and eat? There is no strength to run without eating. She doesn't want to run. Looking at Qin Qi's wet and pitiful eyes, Zhanqing didn't kick him out of bed for the first time. You always sleep like this. Qin Qi's posture remained the same this night, and he hugged the pillow tightly and slept on it. Zhanqing thought, would such a sleeping position be comfortable? Well, because I'm afraid. Qin Quiet didn't lie about this. She was really afraid that she developed such a habit, which has been like this since she was a child. Zhanqing didn't speak, Qin Qiao didn't wake up naturally, and his eyes were still sleepy. He looked dazed, very cute. Chapter 15. It was like a cute little deer with a pair of wet and blank eyes. Just looking at you so carefully, you will pity it involuntarily. Get up. In the end, Zhanqing just said this faintly, and then turned over and got out of the bed. I have to say that Zhanqing's figure is really good, his bronzed honey-colored skin, without a trace of cellulite. It's not the kind of muscles full of body, but the kind of tight and tension. Very good figure. Damn, Chin, what are you thinking, what are you looking at? Don't you feel your little face burning? Touching his face, it was really hot, and immediately buried his face on the pillow. Cool down. Although she hugged the pillow all night, the smell of Zhanqing still remained on it. When Zhanqing came out of the bathroom, he saw Qin Qiao still holding a pillow on the bed, lying there. Qin quietly fell asleep again, only to feel that something hit his head. She was shocked and sat up. I reached out and saw that it was a set of camouflage short sleeves and pants. Hurry up and put it on. Zhanqing was surprised by Qin Qi's good temper. Qin quietly grabbed the clothes and ran into the bathroom, but didn't come out after a long time. Zhanqing knocked on the door directly. Qin Qi, are you pulling the mo? Zhanqing's remarks meant that Qin Qi was a lazy donkey. The bathroom door opened, and Qin quietly came out with his pants, wide camouflage short sleeves, covering her like a costume. Uncle Ju, these pants are too big. Qin Qi pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose with one hand and the pants with the other. It's kind of funny, but it's more cute. Let go of your hand. Zhanqing said solemnly, looking at Qin Qi camouflage clothes. Qin quietly looked at Zhanqing in surprise. When she let go, wouldn't she drop her pants? Let go. Zhanqing said coldly again, this time obviously more annoyed than last time. Qin quietly let go of his hands in fright, and his pants just fell off. Although the spacious camouflage shirt is big, it can cover Qin Qi's thighs. After all, it was a girl. Qin couldn't help but lowered his head, standing uncomfortable. Zhanqing felt a little uncomfortable breathing. If this kid is placed in the battle spirit, it will not be a scourge. Why is it so attractive? Seeing that Qin Qi was going to bite his mouth again, Zhanqing suddenly ordered, no bites. Qin was so scolded by Zhanqing, and she couldn't help but wince her shoulders. With that twisted posture, Zhanqing's heart was full of fire. As for what the fire was, he didn't think deeply about it. Find a way by yourself. Seeing that Qin Qi's pants would indeed fall, Zhanqing threw down such a sentence and turned and left. When Qin quietly looked for a rope to use as a belt. She didn't know, Zhanqing drank 2 large glasses of water, but couldn't extinguish the fire in her heart. Is the fire anger, or what kind of fire? Qin quiet started the first 5-kilometer morning run in her life, and she ran at the back of the team. Seeing other people running easily, she blushed as if she was about to catch fire, panting as if she would stop breathing at any time. Especially her body is soft like cooked noodles, and she feels as if she will fall down at any time. Qin Qi suddenly felt as if his body was about to rise into the air, and unexpectedly ran easily. She felt like she was pressing a hot wheel under her feet, which made her run effortlessly. Audiobook leave the little claws, I want to hold you firmly.